Ladies and gentlemen, capital G, here with Hogaak, Arisen, Necropolis. Managed to get himself banned in Modern, so tells you how good this creature is, although just turning an 8/8 trample sideways in our format is not necessarily the best thing, so I've got a little plan here, but let's go more in depth. I said 8/8 for 7 mana, but that's a lie because we cannot spend mana to cast this spell. We have to convoke or tap creatures that are on our battlefield in order to cast this spell. We can also reduce its cost by delving away cards from our graveyard, so cards in our graveyard go into exile to reduce its cost. Now Delve can only reduce the colorless cost, whereas Convoke can pay both colorless and colored costs. So the game plan is get some creatures out, cast Hogaak, we get an 8/8 trample, and what are we going to do with that 8/8 trample? We're going to sacrifice it because a cool feature about Hogaak is that he can be cast from our graveyard. So no commander attacks. So we're just going to throw him into our graveyard, recast him, throw him into our graveyard and cast him. And we're going to do that with the help of our friend Cordoza Guildmage. It's a 2/2 for Golgari colors, and it's 2 colorless. It's 2 generic, 1 black, 1 green. Sacrifice a Hogaak. That should read sacrifice Hogaak. Put 8 1/1 green sapling creature tokens onto the battlefield. 8 being based off of Hogaak's toughness. So the idea here is we pay the 4 mana, sacrifice Hogaak, we get our 8 tokens. Tap 7 of those tokens to recast Hogaak from our graveyard. But of course, how are we going to keep paying if this mana cost? We're going to run out of mana eventually. Oh, Phyrexian Altar. We can sacrifice, after we tap these saplings to replay Hogaak, we can sacrifice some of them for colored mana. So, we're going to sacrifice 4 of them each time. But that means we sacrifice 4 tokens to sacrifice Hogaak again, get 8 more saplings. And the loop continues. And on this own, this loop will net us 1 sapling every go around. So, infinite saplings, but they don't have haste. So, 2 choices from here. We could have gone either Concordant Crossroads and given all our creatures haste that way, or we go with Aristocrats. I went with Aristocrats. So I'm running 6 of them, in fact. Blood Artist, Falconrath Noble, Poison Tip Archer. Slimefoot does double duty because he can also generate token creatures for us. Vindictive Vampire, and the Zulaport Cutthroat. We're actually running a lot of card draw that should help us get to one of our Aristocrats once we have our combo pieces in place. So let's go over that. We'll start us off with Beast Whisperer. Whenever we cast a creature spell, draw a card. Again, key combo piece because we'll be casting Hogaak over and over. Carven Catarid. 2/5, draws us a card when it comes in, and can tap towards Hogaak's mana cost. I put Deadbridge Chant in as a card draw because it's going to put 10 cards from our library into the graveyard, and then we randomly get 1 back on each of our upkeeps. Elvish Visionary. 2 mana 1/1, comes into play, draws us a card, and can tap towards Hogaak. Explore draws us a card and helps us get some more lands out. Golgari Locket. You'd think I put this in the ramp section, but it's here more for the card draw. Greater Good. Excellent card draw. Another way we can sacrifice Hogaak and abuse his power. So sacrifice Hogaak, draw 8 cards, discard down to and then discard 3 of them. And that should help us get to our pieces a little faster as well. Harmonize. Just straight up draw 3 cards for 4 mana. May as well be drawing 4 cards because then we can still use the Harmonize to reduce Hogaak's mana cost. Hedron Archive, same deal as the Golgari Locket. It's actually a little cheaper to sack this one off, but it does not provide us colored mana. Life's Legacy is a sorcery version of Greater Good. So Hogaak on the field, pay 2, sack Hogaak for a bunch of cards. Mind Stone, again, gives us a little bit of rapid, a little bit of card draw. Momentous Fall, the instant speed version of these, where we can just sacrifice Hogaak at instant speed when needed to draw cards and gain life. Return of the Wild Speaker, this won't sacrifice Hogaak, but that's okay. It will draw as cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures we control, and last time I checked, Hogaak, let's just make sure here, he's not a human, is he? Nope. Avatar. So yeah, pay 5, draw 8. Or Rich Card's Expertise. Pay 6, draw 8, and we get to cast something with CMC 5 or less from our hand without paying its mana cost. And you'll notice I actually have a very, very low curve, save for maybe 2 or 3 cards. Most of my curve is 5 or less. Sylvan Library helps us dig through the deck every upkeep. The Great Henge. This is perhaps the power card here. Obviously, it's only going to cost double green once we have Hogaak out. And it's another way for us to draw cards whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under their control. So, it gives us a chance to draw into Hogaak and get our Aristocrats combo going. Wall of Blossoms comes into the battlefield, draws us a card. So yeah, the idea is we want to cycle through the deck pretty quickly. Also playing a lot of land fetch cards, so Cultivate, Grove Spasm, which also gives us an Eldrazi spawn, so Grove Spasm is a land and a spawn. Harrow, sack 1 land, get 2. Kodama's Reach, and of course, like I said, we have Cultivate, so Kodama's Reach, of course. Lay of the Land, just straight up go get a basic land from our deck, put it into our hand. Rampant Grove, a land from our library right onto the battlefield. Sol Ring is here just to kind of reduce the amount of mana I need to draw from my lands. I almost went without it in this build, but I figured, you know what, I've got enough going on that I probably want that colorless source to take the pressure off my basics. And lastly, Spring Bloom Druid, Harrow on a creature. Comes in, sacrifices 1 land, gets 2 basics out of the deck. 4 cards to help us bring cards back from the graveyard. E-Witness, of course, which is nice. Not only gets us a card back from our graveyard, but also can tap towards Hogaak. Once in Future, this is one I want to give a try to. The deck is, of course, primarily green. I'm running 30 green sources just in my lands alone, so lets us return a card from our graveyard to our hand and 1 card from our graveyard to the top of our library. This would get exiled. But if we paid at least 3 green mana when casting the spell, we get both cards in our hand instead. Recollect and Regrowth, simply take 1 card from our graveyard, any 1 card, and puts it back in our hand. For token generation, I've got Awakening Zone, gives us a colorless Eldrazi spawn token every upkeep. Creekwood Liege will give us a black and green worm token, so those tokens can tap towards Hogaak's colored cost. It also gives black creatures +1/+1 and green creatures that we control +1/+1. So with the Creekwood Liege out, Hogaak actually gets a +2/+2 boost, which, if we have to go to combat, will prove useful. Eternal Scourge. This is a little bit of a spicy ad, in my opinion. It's a 3/3. We can cast this from exile, and if ever this becomes a target of a spell or ability, this gets exiled. So somebody targets this, it exiles itself, and we can recast it. If it ends up in the graveyard, say through a discard or through a sweeper, that's fine. We can use this to reduce Hogaak's colorless cost by delving it away and then recast it later. Lovestruck Beast. This was a beast for me in my pre-release, so I've been wanting to put this in a deck for a while, and this is where I found a home for it. You know, pay the 1 green, get a 1/1 token that we can use towards Hogaak, and then later on cast him from exile, and we have a 5/5 that's, well, he's a 5/5 and he can tap for Hogaak, so why not? Lots of token generation with Saproling Migration, Scatter the Seeds. These will give us saprolings, spells for saprolings. Spontaneous Generation, an oldie from Mercadian Masks. Put a 1/1 green sapling creature token into play for each card in our hand. We could be generating a lot thanks to Hogaak, and all of the card draw power that we have. Spore Swarm also gives us some sapling tokens. Squirrel Nest is here. Means that we can just tap a land to get a squirrel token. Earthcraft is not here. I do not have an Earthcraft, so no. That's a $40 card, and it doesn't really help the deck that much. I'm not getting a $40 card just to interact with this. Wolfcaller's Howl. Nice little enchantment. At the beginning of our upkeep, we get a 2/2 Wolf token. Well, X of them, where X the number of our opponents with 4 or more cards in hand. In our format, that's always going to happen. We're going to get 2, 3, 4 wolves every turn. Just a few tutors. I've got Demonic Tutor, Diabolic Tutor. Of course, these are primarily to act as extra copies of Phyrexian Altar. Diabolic Tutor is in fact the only double black casting card in the deck, which gives you an idea of how important it is to find Phyrexian Altar. Eldritch Evolution and Worldly Tutor are specifically meant as extra copies of the Cordoza Guildmage. Because with Eldritch Evolution, I could sacrifice the token to get my Guildmage and get the combo running. Of course, Worldly Tutor to put it on top of my deck and draw in. And just because I have a sense of fun here, there are 6 Garruk Planeswalkers, and 5 of them are pretty good here, so I am running 5 Garruks. I've got Garruk Relentless, which puts wolf tokens into play. Garruk Wildspeaker gives us some beast tokens. Garruk Apex Predator also gives us beast tokens. These also have Death Touch. You can also destroy other planeswalkers or destroy other creatures. Garruk Cursed Huntsman destroys creatures and draws cards, and will also let us get some black and green wolf tokens. And what's cool about those tokens is that when they die, they give all my Garruks loyalty. And the last one, of course, Garruk Primal Hunter. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. That's what it's here for. Of course, also creating 3/3 beast tokens. Some targeted removal. Kenrith's Transformation is an intriguing one to me. The idea of taking an opponent's commander, turning it into a 3/3 elk with no abilities, and we get to draw a card when we cast this. I am running both Naturalize and Return to Nature. I was wondering how much enchantment removal is enough, as I do not want to run into a Grave Pact. So I'm running both Naturalize and Return to Nature to defend against that. Price of Fame and Putrefy to give us some targeted creature removal. I'm not running any board wipes. That is a risk that I am taking with this build. And when there are no blockers, Grafted Exoskeleton. So if you manage to, find somebody who's wide open and your Hogaak is ready to swing, drop the Exoskeleton out of nowhere, knock them out. One less person to disrupt your plans. For lands, running 37 lands. Ash Barrens for the basic land cycling. Blighted Woodland, sack it, you get 2 basic lands out of your deck and onto the battlefield. The usual Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, also running Fabled Passage and Prismatic Vista. I was debating how many of these I wanted to run. I could also run a lot of the other fetch lands, but I decided just to stick with these ones for now, as they're still comparatively affordable. Overgrown Tomb here to give us our choice of black and green mana. 25 forests and only 5 swamps. The only reason I'm running this many, of course, is because I'm not running as many fetches as I could. The reality is I only need maybe 2 or 3 black sources on the battlefield to trigger the endgame. So yeah, that is what I've got for Hogaak. I'm curious to see what EDH Rec suggests for this, so let's have a closer look at that. Let's take those out and show lands, just lands. Could not automatically detect the commander in the deck. Okay. I'm pretty sure I marked it. So let's see what EDH Rec has to say. Just some of the usual suspects like Command Tower, which I can easily swap out a forest for, that is true. Woodland Cemetery, Golgari Rodform, Llanowar Wastes. Llanowar Wastes would be a good choice. Bajuka Bog, that would have some utility. Temple of Malady. Temple of Malady, in fact. I've been watching too much Rudy. And of course, Dredgelands. Yeah, I mean, no bad choices here. You're right, I'm not running a command tower. I didn't have an extra copy of command tower, but there's no real urgency to it. But if I were to pull lands from here, it would be Llanowar Wastes and command tower. And possibly Blue Bog. Going into spells, let's see what they suggest. Skull Clamp, of course, because we're playing a lot of cheap tokens. The Golgari Signet and the Talisman of Resistance, another way to fix my mana, but these don't draw cards for me, so that's why I decided not to go with them. Moldavine Reclamation, the only reason I don't really want to run this is because at some point I want to stop sacrificing Hogaak. And I want to make sure I drain out everyone else before I deck out. That's my logic there. Beast Within, a great piece of removal. And yes, that should probably go in. I could probably swap out Putrefy for it. Assassin's Trophy, again, great targeted removal. Ashman's Altar, I need the colored mana. Sacrificing for colorless is not good enough. Not for this build. Victimize, I can see why they say Victimize. It's not a bad choice. I think I'm fine without it, but... And Grizzly Salvage. The reason I didn't run Grizzly Salvage or any effects similar to this is because I want more control over what goes in my graveyard than what these effects provide. And then creatures. Steve, of course. I didn't run Steve. I think that's just an oversight on my part. Deathrite Shaman. That wouldn't be bad. Especially with that Golgari cost, it doesn't matter what my turn 1 land is. Rex Sage to wreck somebody's artifacts. Wouldn't have been bad. Wood Elves. Wood Elves also an oversight. That one I should have definitely put in. Llanowar Elves, never saw the reason for it here. And Avenger of Sendagar, which, I mean, that spits out a bunch of tokens. So yes, this would have been also a great top end. So some excellent suggestions for this deck, giving us a price of $269. So let's break that down. Friction Altar, that's a key card in this particular build, so there's no real savings to be had there. For our Aristocrats, Blood Artist is actually $3.90. So that one could actually be, you can swap out Blood Artist for another Aristocrat of your choice fairly easily. Other than that, where can we find some savings? Sylvan Library. Comparatively optional, so yeah, perhaps savings can be found here if you're trying to build this deck for yourself. Soul Ring, again, that was a really last second add. So it is possible, perhaps possible to run this deck without it. Eternal Witness, of course, that's a big card. Again, there's other regrowth effects, so you may decide to go without Eternal Witness if you wish for some savings there. Other than that, nothing too crazy here. Demonic Tutor. Again, I happen to have one handy, but if you don't, any tutor that would let you go get a card of your choice. The reason I would like Demonic Tutor so much, again, is the single black mana. So if you can find a tutor for single black that's cheaper, then go for it, because that is where you'd find some savings. Worldly Tutor, again, same thing. If you can find another creature tutor, then you can save some money here too. And Garruk Apex Predator, I think it's really more because it gave us the Mythic Edition, War of the Spark. I think that's the price. It just kind of defaults to that when I pick the card. You don't have to get the Mythic Edition version, of course, if gameplay is the goal. And other than that, of course, the more powerful fetch lands, the Prismatic Vista, the Fabled Passage, those are incredibly powerful cards, and, well, in terms of going to get your mana fixed up. So that is where you find some savings. If you can find, if you can say use some of the slow fetches, the ones that come in tapped, but then you can fetch for something the following turn. Go ahead and run those, and that will easily save some money here. You can easily bring this down below 150 just by changing out a few cards. Alright, and that's Hogaak. Let me know what you guys think. Is there a way can better focus it, more reliably get my combo pieces? Or any other ways I could generate mana with all my tokens? I could sacrifice for mana, or sacrifice to turn him into a bunch of tokens. I'm definitely welcome to those suggestions. And with that in mind, I will see you all next time. Bye for now.